Divine Entertainment. By Orthoris. Chapter 32. A Day Off. Scholar Arc. Day 6. Atlas was lying on his bed. Amethyst was currently attending a class, which left Atlas to his own devices. After having studied furiously in the past week, Blazing Inferno gave him a day off. Contrary to the fixed schedule Atlas was used to from Earth, giving days off in the academy was entirely up to the teachers. While he still wanted to continue his studies, Atlas found himself agreeing with Inferno. The constant use of his brain started to take its toll, causing him to be sleepy during the day while also making it harder to concentrate. Even though Atlas had only learnt the levitation spell for now, he took his training seriously. Since using hooves to do everything was still awkward for him, he found himself defaulting to magic whenever possible. As such, he was using his levitation spell proudly every time he got the chance to, sometimes even just letting things float for fun. It took quite some work to adjust his magical output and refine his control, but now he could cast the spell almost effortlessly. Aside from training his spell casting, Blazing Inferno pumped Atlas's brain full of basic magical theories. Since Atlas would have to join a regular class in a few weeks, they were going through the material at full speed. As soon as he was able to, Atlas started to take notes like a madman. As such, the desk in his room was cluttered with loose parchment. True to his old human nature, there was seemingly no system behind the mess, but he was still able to find everything he needed. Organized chaos, so to speak. Doing this led to an interesting discovery for him. Blazing Inferno was not able to read Atlas's notes. While Atlas was using the Latin alphabet from Earth, ponies seemed to have developed an entirely different alphabet. Atlas was magically able to read theirs perfectly without knowing how or why, although ponies couldn't read Atlas's writing. Atlas ventured a guess on why this was, and thanked whatever god was kind enough to wire this ability into his head when he was transformed. Although he'd need to learn their alphabet too at some point, if he ever wanted to write a report for class or similar things. Atlas tried with several books on the subject to no avail. The writings in them just looked like regular Latin letters to him. He'd have to ask Amethyst at some point to help him out. Atlas stretched his limbs out in an attempt to get his blood flowing. His horn flared up with a green glow and his blanket floated off him. He hopped out of bed and a quick glance out the window told him it was almost noon. Apparently he was more tired than he thought and slept in. A huge yawn escaped his lips while he tried to shake off his morning drowsiness. First things first, Atlas mumbled, before making his way toward the bathroom. After he got back, Atlas felt a lot more awake, thanks in part to the water he splashed on his face. He dried himself off with a towel, before tossing it haphazardly on his desk when he was done. After stretching one last time, he levitated his saddlebag onto his back. The right latch opened and a small bag of bits floated into it. As he closed the latch, he made sure the saddlebag was secure one last time before stepping out of the room and locking it. It had almost been a full week since he last saw his friends, so he decided to go down into the city proper and see if they were up for lunch. Atlas approached the house where Crimson and Belle were staying. It took him almost an hour of walking from the academy to reach it. They were staying in a flat on the second floor, the staircase to which was attached to the outer wall of the simple house. Nothing really stood out about it, just one of thousands just like it, mostly found in the back alleys of the city. He climbed the wooden steps until he arrived at a platform giving access to a door, before knocking on it 3 times with his hooves. At first he couldn't hear anything, which was weird since the door was pretty thin, leading him to believe he came here in vain. But after a few seconds he could hear shuffling from the other side, and steps approaching the door. A crack appeared at the side of the door and a blue eye peeked out. "Hi, Belle," Atlas said, amused. "Atlas!" Belle shouted happily, practically throwing open the door. She leapt outside and wrapped Atlas in a friendly hug, which he returned. "Haven't seen you in a while," Belle said. "How have you been? Can you do magic now? Are the ponies in the academy nice? Please come in." Belle immediately barraged Atlas with a flurry of questions. Atlas chuckled at her usual spiel, having grown accustomed to her excessive talking during their trip. He entered the simple two-room flat and decided to answer one of her questions by levitating his saddlebags off his back and into a corner. A gasp could be heard from behind Atlas, causing him to grin. "You can do magic now?" Belle said, astounded. "You need to tell me all about it." She zoomed over to where Atlas was, and shot some devastating puppy eyes his way. "All right, don't worry," Atlas reassured her. "But only if you tell me what you've been up to as well. Where's Crimson, by the way?" Atlas looked around in the sparsely decorated interior and wasn't able to spot the red Pegasus anywhere. There was another room, but the door was wide open and he'd surely have come out to greet Atlas by now. "Oh, Crimson's at work and won't come back before evening," Belle offered. "Apparently they're brutally understaffed and their workload is pretty high this time of year." "Well, just us two then," Atlas said. "What do you think about lunch? We can talk over something to eat." "Sure, sounds good to me," Belle responded. "The usual place?" "Depends, found anything better in the past week?" Atlas asked. "Nah." "Well then, Applebee's it is," Atlas said. In the week where they were staying at a hotel they usually went out to eat. It didn't take them too long before they found the nice little restaurant, a bit off the beaten path. The owner was an earth pony named Applebee, a chubby stallion who loved to talk and laugh with his customers. Since his prices were affordable and the food tasty, they quickly became regulars. They grabbed what they needed and Belle deposited her own bits in Atlas's saddlebags. Belle locked up before they were on their merry way. "So how's Crimson doing?" Atlas asked. "Everything all right with him?" "Oh yeah," Belle replied. "He said he's still learning the ropes, but his colleagues are apparently pretty understanding and supporting." "That's good to hear. After all he's been through, I hope this will be something steady for him. I think we've all had our fair share of troubles in the past, enough to have earned a little respite," Belle said seriously. "Let's just hope it lasts," Atlas said. "I'm kind of like a magnet for trouble." "Oh, don't be such a worrywart. Everything will be fine." Belle playfully smacked Atlas on the back of his head. "Besides, we can look out for one another." "Yeah, I guess you're right," Atlas sighed. Atlas really hoped she was right. But knowing his fate recently, the universe was just waiting for the opportune moment to throw more stones at him. Possibly even literal stones. They turned a corner and Applebee's came into view. It was a quaint little place, a wooden fence shielding the outside tables from the street. Vines were running up the building wall as well as the fence, creating a nice contrast to the otherwise bleak house facades. Out front hung a shield depicting a red apple upon which a bee had landed. It was at the same time the logo of the establishment as well as the owner's cutie mark. "Outside?" Atlas asked. "Outside," Belle answered. Atlas nodded and approached the entrance, while Belle was already picking a place to sit. Apparently they made it just before the lunch rush, as almost no pony else was present. Atlas poked his head inside and looked around, trying to spot the chubby stallion. "Applebee," Atlas called after not being able to locate him. "Table for two, outside," he shouted. "Atlas? Is that you? I'll be right with you guys," a voice shouted from the kitchen. Satisfied, Atlas turned around and went to sit with Belle. "So? Tell me all about it," Belle said as soon as he sat down. Atlas levitated his saddlebag off to the side, resting it against a table leg. "Oh, it's mostly boring theoretical stuff, you know," Atlas teased Belle. "I wanna know anyway," Belle said, frustrated. "Tell me." All right, calm down," Atlas chuckled. "Well, the island is truly a sight to see." "Atlas! It really is you," shouted a voice from the restaurant entrance. "I haven't seen you in over a week. So nice to have you back." A chubby earth stallion made his way over to them. He had a red coat and his mane was cut short and green. "Always nice to see you too, of course, Belle," he added as he approached. "I've started living on the Academy Island, afraid an hour walk is a bit more than my lunch break allows for," Atlas said. "Good for you," Appleby said. "As long as you don't forget your old pal Appleby and visit from time to time." The chubby stallion guffawed, his sides wobbling with every move. "So what can I get for you two?" Appleby asked. "Today's special is a tasty tomato salad, followed by a hearty vegetable stew." "Sounds good to me," Atlas said. "I'll take it too," Belle agreed. "Two dailies, coming right up." Appleby shot them his widest smile, and went back to inform his cook. "So anyway, the whole island is dedicated to magic research." Atlas continued their previous conversation. "Everything is walled off and there is this huge tower in the center, it's almost like a fortress." "Oh, that sounds amazing. Can I come and visit sometime?" Belle interjected. "Sure, that shouldn't be a problem," Atlas replied. "Yay!" Belle said and did a little hoof pump. "The dorms are okay, the rooms are pretty simple, but they are adequate." Atlas continued. "That reminds me, you should meet my roommate sometime. His name's Amethyst Blade and he knows a lot about magic. I'm sure you'll be able to ask him everything you want to know." Belle's face lit up at that. Her curiosity for the magical practices knew no bounds, so having a friend who could quench her thirst for knowledge was amazing. "I'd love to," she said in awe. "But what about your magic lessons? Are they hard?" Atlas took a few moments to think about his answer. "What's this I hear about magic lessons?" a voice said next to them. Appleby had returned with their salads, putting them down on their table. He sat down next to them, obviously interested. "You finally able to do something useful with that horn of yours?" Appleby asked. "For now only just levitating stuff," Atlas replied, levitating his fork to get his point across. Appleby started laughing happily again. "Good for you, boy," he said after calming down. "Don't forget about little old me once you become a famous mage." "How could I?" Atlas replied with a smirk. "Good to know, you guys are good customers. I'd be sad to see you go," Appleby said. "Now excuse me, I seem to have new guests." Appleby glanced to the side, where two unicorns sat down at a table. He went over to greet them, leaving Atlas and Belle alone again. Atlas speared one of his tomato slices with his fork and guided it to his mouth. Belle watched him curiously, fascinated by the simple task. "Shouldn't you be used to seeing magic by now?" Atlas asked after swallowing. "After all, you live in the unicorn capital now." Belle smiled sheepishly. "Well, my teacher is an earth pony like me, so I don't get to see that much magic at work. Most of our customers are earth ponies too. Sure, I see it being used a lot around town, but you told me that staring is bad, so I don't just ogle unicorns whenever they cast a spell." Belle pouted a bit, eating her own salad. "That reminds me, how is your training going?" Atlas asked, curious about the earth pony skills himself. "Nothing exciting yet," Belle said. "For now I mostly help White Mallow out around his clinic. After closing hours he has me meditating though, and sometimes he wants me to boost a potted plant or similar things." Belle sighed. "I honestly thought it would be more interesting to learn such an amazing skill." "Well, learning can be boring," Atlas agreed. "But in the end it'll all be worth it," he added. "Yet I suppose you're right." Belle sighed. "So tell me more about your lessons. I'm dying to know more." Atlas chuckled at her. He remembered that teaching someone is just another form of learning, and started to recap his week for her. Asterisk. Atlas and Belle had spent the rest of the day together. They talked about their week and went for a walk in a nearby park. After the sun had started to set, they made their way back to Belle's and Crimson's flat. They were currently in front of the stairs leading up to it, saying their goodbyes. "Thanks for tagging along with me today," Atlas said. "It was fun." "Sure thing," Belle replied. "We should totally do that again next week." "Sounds good." Atlas nodded. "I'll come down again whenever I get a day off. Maybe Crimson will be home next time too. I could even bring Amethyst with me if he's off." Atlas wiggled with his eyebrows. "Yeah," Belle said, a sad look flashing over her face before she started smiling again. "That would be great. Well then, it's time for me to return to the academy," Atlas said. "I need to get up early tomorrow." "All right," Belle said while pulling Atlas into a hug which he gladly returned. "Be careful, okay? Don't worry, I'm not learning any dangerous spells yet," Atlas said while starting to walk away. Belle waved him goodbye with a smile and turned herself around, making her way inside the flat. Silence fell over the alley, now devoid of any ponies. After a few minutes, a shadow started to move in a nearby side alley. The rhythmic clop of hooves announcing its departure. Author's note: "Sorry for the delay, and this Saturday is no good either, tongue sticking out. I'm currently in Cologne, Germany to attend Gamescom. Since I'll only have bad hotel internet over the next few days, I thought I'd post it now. Hope you had a good read, and feel free to comment. Once again, thanks to my editor Ambrose and my proofreader Kilobytes for a job well done." Today's chapter was brought to you by this song. I sure do love myself a good villain song. Also for those who might have missed it on the last chapter, since I forgot to post it on release. Artist, Karma Dash. The blacked out characters will be unlocked at my own discretion. End author's note.